What's up, Earthrockers? It's your boy Shovitar here for another Dracula's Curse run. I'm just going to get the footage started. Okay, not too loud. This one is a no-hit run in the Japanese version of the game on the Alucard route. And for this run, I gave myself a time stipulation of sub 30 minutes, same as the Cypher one that I uploaded earlier. And something I want to point out, I'll just let level 1 play out because there's not too much to talk about in it. Something I want to point out is that a time limit of sub 30 is actually especially generous for the Alucard route. The Alucard route, if you're playing optimally, if you're doing like a speed run or even like a good no-death run, the Alucard route is definitely going to be the easiest out of all the possible routes, because in the Grant route, you have to do the clock tower. In the Cypher route, you don't have any like extra movement stuff. The Alucard route is definitely the fastest. And it's not that hard to get even like, I don't know, like a sub 29 or a sub 28, but I went for sub 30 for two reasons. One is because giving yourself a no-hit stipulation disproportionately affects the Alucard route more than it does the Grant route or the Cypher route, for reasons I'll point out as they crop up. The second reason has to do with something that happens later in the video, which I'll point out. But I just wanted to sort of, not that anybody notices or cares, but I just wanted to point out that the reason this video is longer than it should be is because, or longer than you would necessarily expect if you knew anything about like optimized Alucard routes, is because Alucard route runs, rather, is because if you no-hit on Alucard, you have to go really slow in a lot of spots, which I'll point out as they crop up. So the first thing that's different in this route from any of the other runs that I've uploaded so far is that I pick up the stopwatch here. And I pick up the stopwatch for a couple of reasons, and it's, well, for a reason that's particular to the Alucard route that, again, I'll point out when we get to it. I also want to mention that this, like the Cypher video, is an older piece of footage. This, I think, is the oldest thing that I'm going to upload here for you guys. I think I recorded this maybe almost a year ago, probably more than a year. A year ago as of recording this commentary. It's going to be more than that when I actually get around to posting it. So this is very old footage. So a lot of this stuff is inefficient, not optimal. A lot of my movement through level 1, not really great. It's similar to the kind of stuff that I was pointing out in the Cypher video, so I won't bother going over that again. The overall routing, like picking up the stopwatch, is another reason why this is so slow. And it's possible that I didn't have to do that, but I'll have to wait until later in the run to get into why that is. So this is actually an interesting, I'm going to go back a bit. So no hitting the Bone Soldier here, this first boss, is simple, but it's not simple. Because if you stand in a specific spot, like right here, and then you turn around and start whipping him as he's coming up, you can actually stun lock him. And you don't need a special sub-weapon or anything, and you can just whip him over and over again, stun lock him, and kill the boss without taking any damage. But the problem is it's very particular, and if you go too far in one direction, he'll walk into you, go too far in the other direction, he'll just hit you. It's a pretty tight check that I didn't really want to do for a run like this. I just kind of, when you're getting these runs, you need to figure out which points of failure you're willing to eliminate, and this is one of them. So instead, I start over here on the, I'm actually going to let this play out once. So I go over to the ledge on the left, and I whip him 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh no, 5 times. Then I get over here, and I whip him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a pretty common health threshold for enemies in the JP version, by the way, is 11 fully upgraded whip swings, or 11 HP. Whenever I talk about HP in these games, I'm measuring HP by like how many full charged whip swings it takes them to die. And I want to talk about this part in particular because what's happening here is I'm basically catching him on the ledge, like knocking him back so that he almost falls off the ledge, and then he like gets back on the ledge, then I knock him back off the ledge, get him on, get on, back and forth like that. And the timing for that's pretty specific, and it's just like a fancier but less risky way of doing what I talked about before, which is stun locking him with the whip. But instead of stun locking him just with hit stun, you're stun locking him because he has to spend time getting back onto the platform after you nudge him off a little bit. So this is just a cool little thing that I figured out. It's like I said, it's a less risky way of just stun lock killing him with the whip instead of having to like stand on the ground. So it doesn't save any time, not faster than the other option, but it is safer, which is what I wanted. And this opened up a lot of possibilities. I remember when I was first doing my routing for these runs, I thought I had to get the holy water from level 1 because I thought that I didn't know that you could kill the level 1 boss without taking damage with just the whip. I thought you needed the holy water, you needed like a cross or something. So that was really exciting to figure out, and it kind of enabled me to do these first Alucard runs. Even though, I mean, the irony is I don't really know for sure if taking the stopwatch into the Alucard route is strictly necessary for a no damage. Well, I know it isn't strictly necessary, but there's like technically possible, and then there's like what would be smart to actually do. And again, this is all very vague because it involves a specific thing at the very start of the Alucard route. But what's good about having the stopwatch here is that I don't have to worry about the owls, which I spent a lot of time in my Sypha video talking about the owls. The owls are like the first big potential point of variance, the first big thing in a no-hit run that can screw you up because their behavior is random. Well, their behavior isn't random, but when they spawn in is random. But here I'm just going to use the stopwatch at very specific points to never have to worry about them. And what's important, I'm going to go back, I won't go too far into this, but like the reason why I use the stopwatch here is because I want to make sure that time is still stopped when I get to this guy here. I can't, because that guy over the pit is like the most dangerous. I'm pointing to the screen that you can see me pointing at the screen. The owl that's on the screen right now is the most dangerous owl out of all of them because he's positioned right over a jump that you have to take. So making sure that guy's out of the way is important. So I use the stopwatch a total of 4 times, and because there's so many hearts in level 3, I'm still going into 3-2 here with 15 hearts, and I want 20 hearts going into level 4. Again, for stopwatch reasons. So I have the 20 hearts, and here's one of the big time losses that comes with taking the stopwatch into Alucard 4, which is that you have to kill the turrets with just your whip, which the turrets on the JP version of the game have 4 HP, so you're swinging your whip 4 times per turret. It's annoying. In pretty much every optimized run of the game, you'll see people skip these turrets. Either kill them really fast with sub-weapons, or just skip them with damage boosting, or taking damage intentionally to walk through them. Obviously not an option for a no-hit run. I just thought I'd point that out. That's also inefficient. I mentioned that in the Sypha video. You want to minimize the time you spend on the floor there, because when you're on the floor, you're doing a like scripted walking animation that's very slow. You're not actually moving forward. You're walking more slowly than regular walking. Okay, so here is why I want the stopwatch. Here's what all the routing in the early games leading up to. It's this specific stretch here with these frogs. I'm just going to let this play out, and then I'm going to go back and explain a little bit like what's going on. So I use the stopwatch a total of 4 times. And this is, like I said, this room is the whole reason why I'm taking the stopwatch at the start instead of like the holy water, why I'm slow playing on the turrets, why everything, although actually playing slow on the turrets is kind of mitigated by the fact that I'm not fighting the owls at all. So level 3 works out, but getting the stopwatch on level 1 definitely is much slower than just getting the holy water or not getting a sub-weapon at all, or like getting the axe or something. So the reason I do that is because of this room right here. So I freeze time once, and when you have the stopwatch in Dracula's Curse, you can't use the stopwatch without whipping. Every time you whip, every time you use the stopwatch involves up and B makes you whip. So I stop time once, specifically so that I can stop time again between these 2 platforms. So that way I can get over here, stop time for a 3rd time, wait, stop time for a 4th, and then stop time for a 4th time. And here's the big problem. The problem is that the frogs spawns are random. Let me go forward so you actually can see a frog. So it's possible there's an underlying pattern to the frogs that I just haven't grasped. But as far as I can tell, the frogs are pretty much random in terms of where and when they spawn. And that's fine, except for the fact that you have to do jumps here. So you have to jump across this platform, jump here, and jump here. If you never had to jump, if you could just like do straightforward walking, then it would be easy because you could time your jumps. if you didn't have to jump, then you could time like jumping and whipping when the frogs spawn to always kill them. But the fact that you have to jump at certain intervals independent of when the frogs spawn means that there will be points where you have to jump, and while you're in the middle of jumping, like a frog will spawn. So I've spaced out these stopwatch activations specifically so that time is frozen when I'm jumping over platforms. So frozen, frozen, frozen again, and still frozen, unfreeze, freezes again. And the reason that I do this third stopwatch, where is it? Right here, even though there's not another jump coming up, is because freezing time does prevent the frogs from spawning, but it also kind of fucks up their spawn positions, because the game on first quest wants to spawn these frogs far enough in front of you so that you can react to them and see them coming and kill them. Obviously, that's problematic if you're jumping around on platforms in that first stretch back there. But generally speaking, frogs will spawn far enough in front of you that you can see them and react to them and like jump and whip them or something like that. But if you use the stopwatch to delay their spawns, it like fucks with their heads. It like fucks up the normal positioning of those enemies, and they can spawn like literally directly under you. Didn't happen here. Here, if you see that there's a cross in the bottom left corner of the screen there, just above the swamp surface, that's actually a frog, because when the frogs spawn in, they have a whole animation that cycles through a bunch of like unrelated sprites, and the first unrelated sprite is that cross. So that's actually a frog down there. But a frog, well, if once you use the stopwatch to mess with their spawn timings once, you are in danger of frogs spawning directly underneath you, which is why I do another time freeze here, because I don't know if that's going to happen until it happens, and by the time you see if it's happening or not, it's too late to react to it. So this is like a preemptive thing to prevent frogs from spawning underneath me. Then I stop here, because if you go too far, well, because there's another jump coming up at the edge of this platform, obviously, and if I kept going, I would have hit the edge and had to jump off into frogs that would be spawning like directly underneath me. But for some reason, if you stopped right here, then the whole frog spawning right underneath you problem goes away. Like, going this far along the platform resets their like planned out positions, and they won't like spawn right underneath you and hit you. If you go too far forward, there's a danger of that happening. If you go too far back to the left, there's a danger of that happening. For some reason, this spot is like a sweet spot where now their spawn positions are normalized, and the weird impact of using the stopwatch has been negated. So they're spawning normally again, wait for them to spawn, whip, and you can see how close they are, right? So like, you see what I'm talking about when I say like, they do technically spawn far enough in front of you for you to react to them, but like they can still spawn super close to you. Well, they don't spawn super close to you, but they jump at you and end up being super close to you. So this was super close, but like, so this is why, hopefully that makes it clear why I'm doing all this stopwatch stuff and like why I'm doing it so specifically, is because like it's so easy to get randomly fucked over by these frogs if you go in here. And what speedruns will do is they just grab the cross from the owl gauntlet and they just use the cross to kill these guys. But I tried that, and their patterns are not consistent. And then the fourth stopwatch is just to stop them from spawning in this last stretch. So hopefully that all made sense. The short version of that whole spiel is that using the stopwatch makes it easy to not take damage there, but it also means you have to spam it pretty much to get through, because using the stopwatch once messes up what would otherwise be like accommodating spawn positions. And it's possible that there's like a totally consistent way to get through that, to get through the frogs with the cross, but not when I was practicing. And believe me, I practiced the hell out of that frog area. That was like, I felt like an AI trying to like brute force something when I learned about the stopwatch timings and all that stuff. So that was the result of a lot of work, and it got rid of one of the big potential points of failure in level 4, because level 4 on the Alucard route is not difficult at all in a casual playthrough, because at this point you're still not taking that much damage, especially in the JP version. But in the context of a no-hit, you have two big RNG potential points of failure. One is the frogs here, which I like had to do a whole science project to get past consistently without taking damage. And the second part is right here, with these ooze guys coming up. Yeah, this part here, because again, this is also random. Like, you don't really know when and where these guys are going to spawn. You just kind of have to like feel it out and hope that they don't screw you up. And you can't walk across the swamp slowly waiting for them. Number one, because it's slow. Number two, because you'll slowly sink down into the swamp if you walk on it. Like, you can't really see it there, but yeah, if you stand in the swamp, you'll sink into it. So you can't, you have to keep jumping if you want to get through it fast, but jumping opens you up to potentially jumping into one of those slime guys spawning in. So that's why that's another big potential RNG point of failure. And unfortunately, I don't have the stopwatch for that. My original route did keep the stopwatch for those slime guys, because there's even more hearts before that. And then I picked up the cross in this room, but I eventually changed the route to not get the cross and instead get the holy water, which I'll explain momentarily. It involves the boss of this level. So this is all pretty slow as a result, partially as a result of the fact that I have the holy water, partially as a result of the fact that I'm like playing around RNG and that I'm not playing as quickly as I could be playing. Oh, that was pretty good actually. Actually, no, that was good. That last movement through the bats is okay. Okay, speaking of bats, time for this boss is a gigantic pain in the ass. It is like one of the worst things to have to deal with in a no damage run, and I'll just let it play out once, then I'll go back and explain it. And this is a strange. So generally speaking, people talk about the US version being harder than the JP version, which it absolutely is. But in certain specific contexts, the JP version actually can be harder, and this is one of those contexts. So here's the problem. The way this bat boss works generally is you hit the bat, and then it turns into 2 bats, and then you hit the 2 bats, and they turn into 4 bats, and then each of the 4 bats will turn into 8 bats, and then they finally die. So in the context of a speed run, the best solution to killing this boss as quickly as possible is to basically just stun lock it, because when you hit the boss, it gets stunned in place, and that goes for any other like smaller versions of the boss. As you can see, they're like the 2 bats are stuck in place, the 4 bats are stuck in place, and then the 8 bats all like die pretty much as soon as they spawn. So what's the big problem? The problem is that in the US version, after the hit stun is over, you can start doing damage to the bats like almost immediately. Like the hit stun ends, then they become attackable again, and then you can like divide them up into the smaller bats. But in the JP version, after the hit stun, there's like a period of invincibility where they can't take damage. Like, look, not taking, like, here, let me go back. Okay, so the 2 bats, the 1 bat has now become 2 bats, and they're inside of the holy water, but look at that, not taking damage, not getting hit, 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 not getting, finally getting hit. That's like, I don't know how many frames that was. That was like 9 or 8 or 9 frames. Actually, let me just count. This is going to be really exciting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, almost 10 frames, so almost 1/6 of a second, which doesn't sound like a problem, but what that means is that if you don't if you just attack the bat guy right where he spawns underneath the platform, then if you mess up the timing on a whip swing or a cross throw, then the bats will start flying around the room and they'll go totally out of control. In the US version, it's very easy to prevent that from happening because you can hit them almost right after they get out of hit stun. So you have a very generous window to hit them with a cross or with a whip swing. In the JP version, though, the fact that they have that period of invincibility before they can really take damage again and get stunned means that they're in danger of like flying the fuck away from you and then like getting out of hand and going like flying all over the room and zooming around and doing whatever the hell they want. And once the boss isn't in like the stun lock anymore, you're kind of screwed because the bats have a very erratic pattern. They'll like fly all over the place. In a speed run, now it's going to take forever for them to die, and in a no-hit run, you're almost guaranteed to get hit. Because 8 bats flying around, or like 6 little bats flying around doing different things, it's so easy for them to put you in a position where you can't avoid getting hit by them. So my solution to this was, instead of getting the cross in level 4, I get the holy water. So that way, they're set up in a position where the frame that they become attackable, they just take damage from the holy water that they're already inside of, and I don't have to hit like a really specific jump whip timing or jump cross timing in order to hit them. So that was like a gigantic problem that killed so many attempts when I was first trying to get this footage, when I was still trying to make the cross work. And I thought I needed the cross because I thought I needed the cross. I knew that holy water would make that easier, but I thought I needed the cross for the boss in this level. Turns out I don't, and I'll point that out when we get to it. But I just want to talk about, like, that little bat is a prime example of how these little version differences that you probably wouldn't even notice if you were playing the game casually, when you try to play the game, when you try to optimize your gameplay one way or the other, whether it's for speed or whether it's for not taking hits, these tiny little differences that are otherwise irrelevant suddenly become gigantic problems that you need to specifically work around to try to deal with. So I just thought it was an interesting example of that, and an interesting example of the JP version being more difficult than the US version, because in the US version, like, no hitting that boss is trivial. Killing that boss super fast and never taking any damage from it is like, you don't even think about doing it. It's so easy, especially with the cross. But in the JP version, you really got to work around it. Excuse me. So now we're in level 5, the first of many boring cave levels in the Alucard route. Excuse me. I take the lower path here. Normally, if you're speedrunning, you would take the upper path. I take the lower path here because if you don't have the cross, it's hard to kill those two fire guys up on that higher level quickly without them dropping fire residue that you have to wait for. Like, I had to wait back here for this guy. I killed this guy fast, but I still had to wait for the fire residue to wait. If I took the upper path, I would have to deal with that again. So instead, I just take the lower path. It's not... I don't really lose that. It's faster because now I'm not waiting for fire residue, and it's not that much slower than it would be otherwise. I do have to kill this guy, but he dies fast. I can jump over the fire, jump across this pit here. Very nice. Very, very nice. And again, like, another interesting example of how routing changes create these cascading problems for you to deal with is because I didn't have the cross there, then I had to figure out a different pathway to get through that room. I had to go down instead of up. So this is what's interesting about Dracula's Curse and about sub-weapons specifically, and sub-weapon choices, is how, like, they just change everything. And that's what was cool about what was going for... That's what was cool about going for a no damage run, because I didn't see any no damage runs. I'm not, like, working off any templates here. I'm just, like, figuring this all out as I go along. I'm sure people have no hit this game before, but I didn't, like, watch anything to try to help figure it out. So here is the boss of level 5, Alucard. And as you can see, you can kill him with holy water, but it's actually kind of tricky. And now I have to talk about something that I actually didn't even get to talk about in my Sypha video, which is the differences between JP holy water and US holy water. And this is something people don't really talk about much. Holy water in the JP version behaves kind of differently to holy water in the US version. I don't know what exactly it is, but I think it does the same amount of damage, but it takes longer to do the damage, which in practice can make it feel like it's doing less damage because it's just doing the same amount of damage, but more slowly over time. And that means that if you want to do, like, maximum damage with holy water, like here, then you need to throw, like, at a specific time to make sure that it's, like, burning as much as possible. So the timing, this looks like, I don't know, I guess I don't really know how easy this looks, but I throw one holy water back here because when Alucard summons fireballs, they actually come out of, like, the bottom of his cloak, and me throwing the holy water there actually intercepts them and prevents him from shooting fireballs at me, which I otherwise have to deal with. Then I bait him over into a very specific position. I know that if I stand here, he's always going to show up in the same spot every time. Jump up here, throw down 3 holy water, hit him once or twice, then he dies. So I thought I needed the cross to kill Alucard, and normally you do use the cross to kill Alucard here. It's faster. But I discovered that I could kill him cleanly with the holy water, and then that meant that I could go ahead and use the easier strat on the bat boss, and that's really what made this whole route, like, doable. Because level 4 was such a gigantic problem between the bat and the frogs and the mudmen, and I had to just do so much routing. I had to tinker with the route so much to finally get through all that consistently. So it's only about the first 5 minutes of the run, that whole area with like level 4, and then I don't actually know how far into the run we are now. Probably more than 5 minutes. But that was like so much work, so much practice, so much like trying stuff, figuring stuff out. It was fun to do, but it was tough. So now we're in the second part of level 5, a level which can have 3 parts, up to 3 parts depending on the route you take. And now you've got Alucard, and Alucard is better in the JP version than he is in the US version, because in the JP version, apparently he drains hearts. When he turns into a bat, that like drains your hearts. Apparently it's more slow in the JP version than in the US version, but I can't say I've ever really noticed that specifically. But I trust people that that's true. And now we get to the second reason why this video is so long, is because instead of taking the upper path to the third part of 5 and then like the primary Alucard 6, I take the lower path to the alternate Alucard level 6, which I call the Sunken Temple. And you might think, so why am I doing this? Oops, I hit my microphone. I'm basically just doing it for fun, because the Alucard route sucks. Like, Alucard himself is not very fun to play. His attack is like shitty on purpose to sort of try to balance him out, because he has such insane movement with bat form. Alucard's not very fun to play, and the Alucard route kind of is like boring and repetitive, because it's like 3 cave levels all in a row. Level 5 goes on for too long. The primary Alucard 6 is pretty uninspired and boring. And then you have to go, you have to go into Alucard 7 either way, but like Alucard 6 and the third part of Alucard 5 are just like boring. But the other reason why I'm doing this, it is partially for like, there is like sort of a strategic consideration, which is that the boss of primary Alucard 6 is a Frankenstein monster who can like summon random rocks that drop, which means you have to kill it like on Trevor with either the Holy Water or the Cross, and if you kill him with Holy Water in the JP version, there's like a chance that he'll get to summon rocks and like might hit you with the rocks before he dies. Basically, there's like a random chance on the Frankenstein boss that you might get hit, but you don't have that problem in the same way with the boss of this Alucard level. So even though it's much, much slower and dumber and not optimal at all, I take this level so that I can kill the boss without having to worry about RNG exactly, and because I think this level is way cooler. So I would only ever do this on the JP version because this boss here and the JP version and the US version is very different. In the US version, he'll only take damage if you hit him in the head. In the US version, he'll take damage if you hit him anywhere. And so this makes Alucard like uniquely good at fighting him, because the fireballs will hit multiple sections of the boss at once and do a lot of damage. And I say that there's no RNG here, but there is. Like, the way that he comes at you initially is random. I don't really know what makes him decide what to do. I'm sure I knew it better at the time. I remembered like the principles of his movement a little bit better. But the bottom line is I was able to kill him without swapping to Trevor, and I got to do a cooler level, and I didn't have to worry about randomly getting hit by rocks, so I just preferred doing it this way, even though it's way slower. Like this little cutscene here with the water filling up the room, this alone I think takes about 15 or 20 seconds, so not a smart speedrun thing at all. And you can actually see here that in the JP version of the game, this last stage of the level is actually glitched. You'll notice that like the pixels on the left side of the screen are like freaking out. That's only present in the JP version. In the US version, it's normal. But in the US, I would never do this. I would never do this level in the US version because the boss in the US version is such a pain in the ass to fight, which I have done before in my old Dracula's Curse videos when I was doing like 1cc's. Whenever I played the Alucard route, I would always go to the Sunken Temple just because I liked it so much better than the other cave level. And as you can see, it's not that hard to kill this boss with Alucard. So one of the few instances of a boss that you actually can kill with Alucard easily, or semi-easily. That first phase is pretty hairy. but that you can kill with Alucard feasibly without taking any damage. Because one of the big reasons why a no damage run will totally fuck your time in the Alucard route is that the way a lot of Alucard speedruns handle bosses is that you just get to the boss room with like full health or close to full health, and then you just stay on Alucard and you just like walk into them and spam the attack button and take 1,000,000 damage, and then the boss just dies because you just like had more health than it, and Alucard just spammed fireballs, and like you take 1,000,000 hits and like you just don't even think about it at all. Not an option for me. I have to either swap to Trevor or like super slow play it, and in practice that means swapping to Trevor. So you'll see me swap to Trevor on a couple of bosses in this run that a speed run would fight with Alucard, which I'll point out. A speed run would never ever go to the Sunken Temple, so I don't know if anybody knows what the optimal way to do that level is. I'm sure somebody does, but I think that would be cool. There's already too many categories in Dracula's Curse. There's already like 17 categories, so you can't really add any more, but I think the Sunken Temple is like so cool. It's such a cool level. It's definitely the best level of the Alucard route, which is why it's such a shame that it's optional. Oh yeah, and I forgot to point out, now we're in Alucard 7, which is the worst level in the whole entire game, because it goes on for way too long, and it's actually, there's a particular area of this level that I think is actually badly designed. And I think Dracula's Curse is a spectacular game. Like, this is one of the best games I've ever played. I have almost no complaints about it, but one of my biggest complaints comes in specifically with Alucard 7. So this is actually pretty tricky to do, because these blobs are like, they can be kind of finicky. Maybe it's not worth getting into. Basically, I had to stand in a very specific spot to get that blob to do that, because otherwise the blob can do a lot of other different things. Here's some more inefficient movement and routing. Swapping to Trevor here is okay based on what I'm going for, but a speedrun would stay on Alucard pretty much through that whole stretch. So I swapped to Trevor because I have to fight another one of these things, which has exactly the same problem as the first one, where you either have to hit a really tight timing check 3 times in a row, or you just pick Holy Water and kill it and stunlock it. You can actually, and you can swap to Alucard to do this, but Alucard has the same problem that Trevor would have, which is that if you mess up the timing for stunlocking the bats, they'll just fly all over the place, and like, they're gonna hit you. Like, it's gonna happen unless you get super, super lucky. If you let them break free and start flying around, then like, you're just screwed. In a speed run, it's going to take forever to kill them. In a no-hit run, like, they're going to hit you, more likely than not. So now here we are in 7-5. This is the worst stage in the whole game. It's fine on Alucard. If you take, and this is why, even though I've done a million runs of this game, I've played this game for like almost 2,000 hours, I've never ever brought Grant to the Alucard route. And it's not because I don't think it would be cool. I think there's lots of areas of the game where it would be really cool to see like how Grant would do on that route, or how Sypha could do on that route with like freeze skips and parts of 6. Definitely the Sunken Temple is really interesting to me, because I think there's a skip you can do with Grant over the first big, over like a wall there, but maybe, I don't know, I haven't tested it. But that's all to say, the only reason I'd never bring other companions to the Alucard route is because of 7-5 specifically. Because if you don't come into this stage with Alucard and with enough hearts to make this climb, you have to just fucking sit there and wait for the blocks to fall down and slowly, slowly, slowly build up to this ledge. And it is like shockingly, shockingly bad design. So if I had to give one big criticism of what I think is one of the best games of all time, it would be 7-5. Like, so awful. So awful. This part's pretty crazy because you have a couple of choices to deal with these birds here, which is, and that's really the best way to do it, is to just, so for some reason when Alucard turns into a bat, he will damage enemies that hit him. I don't know if that only applies to like enemies that die in one hit, that fly around, or if that's everything. But that's the best way to kill these birds, because you have to kill 2 of them, and they're coming from different directions. And either you use the stopwatch to keep them in place and then jump and shoot them with fireballs, or you try to just bait them to fly into you and then kill them with this transformation thing. The timing is actually really generous there. It looks scary because they're coming right at you, but if you it takes a while for that animation to finish. So there's a very long period of time where if they hit you, they won't do any damage to you, they'll just die. And the reason I didn't want a stopwatch there to kill them is because you really need to... your heart count is super important on Alucard because hearts now equal movement with bat form. And in the context of a speed run, it's especially important because you don't just want to use bat form on Alucard, you want to use bat form optimally on Alucard. So that means using it a lot, or using it like as much as you possibly can, which means not wasting any hearts if you don't absolutely have to. And every stopwatch usage is 5 hearts you're committing. So if there's a way to clear something without using the stopwatch, generally speaking, you should try to do that. Now here's another swap back to Trevor, and something that I talked about in my Cypher run, which I haven't mentioned now, is that when I talk about the no-hit stipulation impacting the run, every time you swap to Trevor and then swap back to Alucard, that takes like almost 10 seconds. It's like 9.75 seconds or something like that. So having to swap back to Trevor to do these bosses without taking damage, or to deal with, like, to kill that bat mini-boss, for example, every time I do that, it's adding 10 seconds onto the run. So that's another reason why this run is as long as it is because the more times you have to swap, the more time you're sort of like wasting, technically, because not every character swap is technically a waste of time if swapping saves time. Like swapping to Trevor to kill this monster mash coming up here is an absolute necessity. You would have to be bonkers to try to do the monster mash with Alucard. It would take forever and it would suck, and it would not be any fun at all. So here we are. Pretty basic. Really not any different than how it would be on the Cypher route. Mummy, Cyclops, Demon. Not much to say here. You need holy water for this. One thing that's nice about getting the holy water earlier in the run is that I don't have to worry about getting holy water here, although actually in the JP version, you don't technically need holy water for the monster mash. You can come in here with the cross, and I think it might actually be faster. So in the JP version, in like an optimized run that's not worried about not taking damage, you would just keep the cross on Trevor pretty much all the way through. And I think you'll see that when I post my second quest speedrun. So unfortunately, I don't get the fast kill on the demon, but I get a fast enough kill, because optimally I would want to kill him like right here before he jumps, but unfortunately he was one whip swing away. Oh well, not perfect, doesn't have to be. What's nice though about killing him when he's up in the air is that the ghost, so the orb in the monster mash doesn't spawn until all of these like sections of the ghost are completely off the screen. Then like a frame later it spawns, or like 2 frames later it'll spawn. So if you can kill the ghost closer to the center of the screen, that's better, because the ghost particles won't like travel as far before they leave the screen. That's not really an option with this guy, but the other thing that can shorten the ghost dying animation is if the ghost is already like partially in the air, then it won't travel as far before it explodes. Like if I had killed the demon on the ground, the ghost would have had to go all the way from the ground up there before exploding, because it wants to explode at a specific height. So even if you have a slow demon kill, technically, because he gets that last jump off, you're still saving like a little bit of time. It's not as bad as it could be, basically. It is still slower, but it's not the end of the world. At least I'm pretty sure it's slower. Boy, I hope it's slower. Or else I would have practiced like the fast demon kill and all these other videos for nothing. Here we are, level 8. Back to more Alucard stuff. Level 8 on Alucard is pretty straightforward. If you're not trying to get hit, especially, if you are letting yourself take damage, there's a couple of complicated movement things that you want to go for. But I'm not worried about that, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah, like you'll see in the JP when I post like second quest footage, you can like damage boost up through this floor with bat form, and then you can damage boost up through the floor above with bat form. And I want to point out something that I did here on purpose. So those orbs, like I've briefly mentioned before, can be really problematic. They can be like really tricky to kill because I don't know 100% what governs their behavior. And if if I go up to this platform and try to go up that staircase, odds are very good that slime is probably going to hit me just based on where he is. So what I do is I deliberately fly like way off to the right, like more than I have to. Not so much that I fall off the platform, but like as much to the right as I can, because that despawns the orb and like resets it over to the left. So I did that on purpose just to get the orb out of the way. And now here is another room where normally you would try to like damage boost up through the floor on that first night back there. Not an option for me, so I'd kill the 2 orbs. I wait here, and then I just fly over this guy's head. Very simple. There might have been more places where I could have used bat form in this run than I did. Like, I've seen actually some people use bat form all the way back in here, but I don't know how you have the hearts to do that, because I'm up here with 3 hearts, so I don't know what that's about. I don't know. Anyway. And now the last stretch of the level, which you again would want to use bat form to traverse. I wait until this last heart has spawned, turn into a bat, pick it up, and you want enough hearts that you get to the Grim Reaper area. So normally if you were doing this just on Alucard, you would start flying much earlier because your plan would be to get to the Grim Reaper boss zone here with like 0 hearts. But I want 11 hearts because I'm going to kill the boss with Trevor, just because it's a little bit more consistent. And it's like, if you have the triple shot holy water, it's like probably, it's pretty fast too, and it's like super consistent. So probably not 10 seconds faster than killing the boss on Alucard would be, which would be like the margin of time that would make switching characters not a time loss. Because like the fact that it takes 10 seconds to swap back and forth from one character to the other means that unless the character you're swapping to can do something 10 seconds faster than the character you swapped from, it's a time loss. But so I don't know if Trevor, I don't think, so Trevor doesn't kill the Grim Reaper 10 seconds faster than Alucard is, so that was technically a time loss back there for me to swap to Trevor, but it just made it a lot easier and a lot more consistent. You can kill the Grim Reaper on Alucard, it's just kind of tricky. And here, there's a way to jump and intercept these guys with Alucard's fireball attack, but it's really close and I couldn't figure it out. Ooh, that's interesting. That like turned into 2 of them. Hold on a sec. What happened there? Wow, it dropped 2. Oh, they were inside each other. That's 2 bird ladies dropping 2 gremlins. That's what that was. I always wondered what happened there. I thought it accidentally dropped 2 of them. Okay. I thought that was like a glitch. Interesting. So my movement in this part of the run is going to be pretty inefficient. A lot of stuff that I don't have to do. Like particularly coming up here. Like this is actually really bad what you're about to see at the start of night 2. I can see what I was thinking at the time, but with the benefit of hindsight, I know now how bad this was. And this is another reason why the run is so slow, is because a lot of this stuff is like not smart. So I go out of my way to... So here's what happens. So I wait here for this thing to fall down. I have 15 hearts, right? I wait for this thing to fall down so I can jump up, get 5 hearts, and then travel across this room with bat form. So that way I can land on this ledge here, then go up to the next room. Can you spot the problem with this idea? The problem is, what I just did was I slowed down to get more hearts, but ended up getting to this ledge with exactly the same number of hearts that I would have had if I had just traversed through the room normally. So this wasted a bunch of time for actually 0 benefit. And this is the kind of thing, this is sort of like a hazard of getting too caught up in like one mode of thinking where you're only thinking about one resource. You're just like, oh, I want more hearts, so there's 5 hearts up there, so I should wait to get the 5 hearts, and then I can use the 5 hearts to get across this thing. But I could have just ran through the room normally. Like, this is not smart at all. It felt smart at the time, but this is really, really, really not good. Anyway, speaking of not good, the way that I do 9-2 is also not really good because Alucard's bat movement, there's two ways to go up. You can either hold up on the D-pad and he'll just ascend, or you can press A, and when you press A, he'll like jump up a little bit. And if you time the presses correctly, you can ascend like super fast. But I never learned the timing for that. So that's why I take this like slow, because if you mess it up, then you just end up like hanging there in place. And on the US version, in the JP version, but especially in the US version, like you really don't want to hang around in place in 9.2. You want to go on like the same timing every time. You want to know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So that means going through the zone at like a set in the same way every time. So I didn't really want to introduce any like potential variables by having a consistent pace rely on like button mashing. So I just fly up slowly. And then what I wanted to do here was jump and use the stopwatch, but instead oh no, I didn't jump. I just went up the stairs. Okay. So I go up the stairs and use the stopwatch. That's why I got the 5 hearts all the way back here, even though it was really slow, is because I knew I wanted to use the stopwatch all the way up here to avoid taking any hits. Because one quirk about Alucard that I hadn't mentioned until now, because it didn't become relevant until now, is that Alucard can't attack on stairs. If he could attack on stairs, I wouldn't have to do this, because I could just get into like a safe spot and then shoot fireballs to like destroy that left turret's fireballs, and then like stall or destroy the gargoyle. But the fact that Alucard can't attack on stairs means that he is especially helpless on stairs. Every character is kind of in a rough spot on stairs, but Alucard more than anybody else. So that's why I had to get those extra 5 hearts, so I could stopwatch here and get out. And now I barely have enough hearts to fly over this guy and get to the last door and get out of 9.2. So rough. I like the room with the turrets and the gargoyles. I played that pretty much fine. But that earlier room with like the pointless diversion to go get spending 5 hearts to get 5 hearts was a classic like intellectual pitfall. Very, very big mistake. It's kind of like, it's one of those like you stop seeing the forest for the trees type thing. I must not have really understood that I was like losing 5 hearts to get 5 hearts. Because if I had even saved, I guess it did technically save me 1 heart. Actually, no, it didn't. It was literally 5 hearts to get 5 hearts. So not very smart, but it felt like the right decision at the time because I didn't really understand that I was like equalizing my resources there. Or maybe my plan was to like, or maybe I screwed up. Maybe I only meant to use 4 hearts to get across the room. But again, like I'm doing all that just to get like 1 heart that I feel like I could probably get somewhere else. I don't know. This is what I mean when I talk about the Alucard route being a no-hit, introducing a bunch of problems, because like that's the only reason I'm so worried about like holding on to like the stopwatch and all that stuff. Oh, actually, the reason I'm concerned about holding onto the stopwatch is this part right here. So 9.4, am I seriously on 350 touching this door? That's impossible. Sorry, I got distracted because like the time it took to me to get to this door is like exactly the same amount of time it takes me to get to this door on like Sypha or Trevor. That's actually scary. It should be way faster if you're playing as Alucard. Ugh. So this run actually is really slow. I didn't realize this level 9 was so bad. Whatever. Anyway, so my plan here is to try to replicate what happened in level 7, where I bait 2 birds and kill them at the same time with the animation. Works pretty much perfectly. And I get through 9.4, which is the hardest stage in the whole game in like a casual playthrough in my opinion. And a gigantic problem on Trevor and Sypha. Alucard just solves it. And here is the last point where I have to swap to Trevor to kill a boss that a regular speedrun would just kill with Alucard, because if you're trying to do a no-hit run, you have to like stun lock. You have to cheese the doppelganger and stun lock him, and you can't do that on Alucard. The doppelganger fight on Alucard is like so dumb. It's actually like annoys me how stupid the doppelganger fight is. And you're going to see it when I upload my second quest JP version, so I'll refrain talking about that until then, but it's just like this stupid slap fight where you just go in and just hope you don't run out of health, and it feels like you're not using your brain at all. It's awful. Anyway, now we're on the last level. I did not need to do that. That was also inefficient. But The last level is particularly interesting when Alucard is involved, because there's lots of spaces where you can save time by using bat form. But you also don't have infinite hearts, and you need a certain number of hearts to get to Dracula, so you have to kind of be careful about deciding where and when you're going to swap to Alucard. Here, I only end up swapping to Alucard at the very end of this level, when, like, you obviously have to, but I play most of the level on Trevor. And again, you know, a lot of this is inefficient. A lot of the stuff you saw in that first room was inefficient. I didn't kill the bird the way I should have. I didn't need to get that extra heart. I didn't need to throw that axe to get that torch. And these are the kinds of little things you notice when you play a game for a really long time and you try to, like, optimize things. Is you, like, things that seem totally innocuous look like gigantic mistakes. Like, a perfect example is right here. I need a double shot axe to kill Dracula. If I'm standing still right here, I should be throwing an axe to destroy those 2 torches, which is what you'll see me do in the Ralph only run that's coming up next. Even if I don't go get the hearts that get dropped from the torches, that would, like, or yeah, like right here, I should throw an axe, or like, because like throwing an axe from here means you get hit, but like I should really whip this torch, or should like throw an axe on the way down or something. Like I should be doing something instead of just standing there on the staircase doing nothing. And again, like it doesn't look like anything, but with the right eye, you notice all these things. Now I do it. Okay, that's not that bad. Based on how weird hearts are in this level with Alucard, that's actually not that bad. Okay, that was good too. Okay. I was expecting this to be worse. I kind of remembered my going through the stage being worse. But this is okay. This is slow. I should really be jumping more to do this, but I'm nervous. I'm at the end of the run, and this is an older run, so that's okay. Now I swap to Alucard. You can do a lot of crazy shit in level A if you are willing to take damage. Like the obvious places are like you can damage burst off these turrets instead of standing still and aiming to kill them. And there's actually a skip you can do on Alucard where if you like go into bat form, go up to the ledge that's like right above me, and then like get hit by the bone and then bat form again, you can like go through the floor. Those are how this Alucard speedruns save a ton of time compared to what I've got here. Is they do a lot of like damage boosts and they fight bosses as Alucard, that kind of thing. That's why there's a bigger gap than I would necessarily expect between like a good no-hit run and like a good speed run. Although, like, because it's more like a gap of like 3.5 to 4 minutes, whereas my other no-hit runs are more like 2 minutes to 90 seconds behind like a good speed run. But anyway, blah blah blah. All that to say, I'm now ready to fight Dracula, and I'm going to go back a bit, actually. So hopefully it's obvious why you have to swap to Alucard here. Like, going across this gap on Trevor is super slow, so swapping to Alucard then swapping right back to Trevor again, even though it does take 10 seconds, it's still way faster than waiting for those pendulums to be. And I'm getting to Dracula with pretty much exactly the number of hearts I would want. Right? Yeah, 31 is fine. It's a little bit lower than I would necessarily like, but it's okay. And this is a slow Dracula fight because I didn't know how to do the fight quickly prior to this. I just didn't know the fight. Unfortunate. Yeah, right in my newer footage when I fight this phase of Dracula on Trevor, I kill him in like after he teleports once instead of after he teleports twice. And then this is also not... Well, this is weird because he's starting from a different position than in my later runs. But this is pretty straightforward. You just like hit him with axes when he comes towards you. Try to work in whip swings. I should actually talk a little bit about like the logic of what's going on here. So the second phase of Dracula is pretty hard to kill optimally. I mean, well, it's not intuitive to like figure out like how would you actually kill this guy the best way possible. There's two things to consider. One is how long it takes to kill him, which is, you know, what I'm talking about, how quickly you can kill him. And the second thing is minimizing axe uses, because I want to get to phase 3 of Dracula with 16 axes, which means I can only throw 9 axes at Dracula at most in this phase. Not 100% necessary. I figured out, I learned strategies later to kill the third phase of Dracula with only 15 or maybe even 14 hearts. But right now, with the knowledge I'm working with, I need 16 hearts to kill Dracula. So that means that you can't just throw axes at this thing all the time. You have to maximize whip uses, which means that when it's on the floor, you should be hitting it with the whip. And then when it's up in the sky, then you should be throwing axes at it. So that's like a general rule for fighting this thing efficiently and with an eye towards managing your resources, is if it's on the floor, whip it. If it's in the sky, throw axes. This is pretty much exactly how I would do this now with 16 axes. Very normal. I guess I'll explain this. I'll just go through this. So there's a couple of different ways. In the US version, the way that the third phase of Dracula works, the lasers are more dangerous, and there's really only one way to kill Dracula in the US version, to one phase Dracula in the US version, because you want to kill him fast. I've explained this before, but basically you have a very limited window of time to kill him before like something happens that causes you to lose a bunch of time. And there's really only one way to do it in the US version. But in the JP version, the fact that the lasers are easier to dodge and they don't shoot in as many different directions means there's a couple different ways to do it. You can just like stand under him and keep throwing axes and like jump around. You can replicate exactly what I do in the US version, which you'll see when I start uploading those videos. But here I do a different thing. I just stay on the platform. I throw 7 axes, drop down, jump, throw, jump, 3, 4, and I know that on the 4th one I'm going to jump over that laser. Now I do 1, 2, 3, and then after the 3rd one I wait for a second until that laser that's right up to above me is aiming and shooting down, because if you jump too early, then the laser will aim at you in the air and hit you. But like once the laser has been aimed, once it's like spawned and it's like shooting down, then it's not going to like change direction. So you just wait until it finishes aiming down, jump 1, 2, 3, and you get it. So in order to one phase Dracula, you want to kill him before let me go back. So that platform on the right, you want to deliver the final blow before that platform hits the floor and joins with the rest. So that's a pretty tight window. And that means there's only so many different ways you can do it. The JP version, you have several possibilities. The US version, it's tougher. That was an incredibly slow Dracula kill. I mean, it was fast, obviously, in the context of like regularly playing the game, but in the context of my other runs, that was slow. That could have been a lot better, but oh well. And that's the Alucard run. Very interesting. Something that I mentioned in my Cypher run is that a lot of the runs, once you get to like hyper-optimized Dracula's Curse gameplay, the whole character swapping thing kind of starts to fall by the wayside because of the factor of like swapping to another character takes 10 seconds. So there's this built-in incentive preventing you from doing it in a lot of situations where it otherwise might be helpful or might make things easier. And that's what I loved so much when I was playing the game casually, was I really enjoyed having those extra tools and thinking of ways to like tackle problems with one or the other companion. And what I said in the Cypher run is that a lot of the runs of this game that incorporate a time limit end up losing that element of the game because you're so de-incentivized from swapping. But in a no-hit Alucard run, it's kind of like the Cypher run, where swapping to Trevor is something you pretty much have to do on multiple occasions. So it does create... It is sort of still in there a little bit, but less so in the Cypher route. And if you're speedrunning in the Alucard route, I don't know when you swap to Trevor. I think you just swap to Trevor for Dracula, and then I guess... I don't know where else, but you barely swap to Trevor in a speedrun where you can take damage. So, old footage, not great footage. If I could go back and fix it, I would. I mean, I can't. I could go back and fix it, but if I had infinite time and this project hadn't already taken me like 10 months longer than I thought it would, I would go back and improve it. But the improvements would not be from routing, they would mostly be from execution. So, not the end of the world. And I hope it was enjoyable. I didn't really talk much about the movement in the Sunken Temple, but it's all pretty self-explanatory. It's just about like bat forming around things, around the geometry, and then watching out for fishmen spawns. The fishmen spawns in the Sunken Temple, you have to like respect them a lot. So you'll see me like start and stop on the platform. And I really should have mentioned that when the footage was still on the screen. Actually, fuck it. I'll just go back. I'll go all the way back to the Sunken Temple and just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Because this is the only footage of the Sunken Temple on my channel, and it would bother me if I didn't like talk about it a little bit more. So I go over this first section in bat form. Very simple. Here, there's an interesting property of Alucard, which is that if you turn into a bat and then unturn into a bat, you'll fall through stairs. Alucard can't attack on stairs, but he can turn into a bat on stairs, so that's what that's about. This is pretty simple. As long as the fishmen spawn behind you, you don't have to worry about it. Sometimes they can spawn in front of you, and you have to like stop and kill them. Here, I just go under this platform, under the bone serpent. Very simple. And then this is the room I wanted to talk about, because it's pretty tricky. Because you're dealing with bat spawns, and you're also dealing with fishmen spawns. So that's fine. This is like a specific thing that I knew I could get away with, because the first spawn from the fishman is consistent pretty much every time, and the first spawn from the bat is consistent pretty much every time. After this point, though, there's like variation. And for some reason, even though fishmen have should take 2 fireballs or more to kill, you'll notice that this one down here dies in 1 shot, which is great, but it's also very strange. So you have to be careful here, because bats will continue to spawn and fishmen will continue to spawn until you get over here. Once you're over here, you're fine. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And then the rest of this is just like bat forming around to get underneath bone serpents, because it takes them a while to actually spawn in. And it's really just a matter of deciding when you're going to go into bat form, how early, how late, etc., etc. And considering the number of hearts I ended up with, I think this was pretty much fine. This was like an efficient enough use of hearts. And again, like here, it's the same thing in 6.2, where the fishmen are spawning in random patterns, and you're just going to have to be ready for it. I knew I could get away with this, because I knew I had a jump, because actually, I think I anticipate this, right? Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that he was going to spawn there, which is why I jump and attack at what seems like nothing at first, but it's because I know that guy's going to be there. And I can hit him once, hit him twice, hit him, then I just bat form up and finish it off. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry to jump around there. I just really wanted to talk about that, because I should have when it was happening. Anyway, where were we? We were at the end of the game. Blah blah blah. All right, I think that's gonna about do it. I'm glad I remembered to talk about that, because that's the only chance I'm gonna have to talk about the Sunken Temple. Everything else in all these videos I'm gonna go through multiple times, and I'll probably have multiple chances to talk about it. But with that, that's not the case. So it's a lot of concerns about like heart economy and making sure you have enough hearts for both bat form and stopwatch usages. Alucard's a big heart hog. That's kind of the baseline of the run. And I don't think I have anything else more to say about it, which is good, because the run is over. So a little bit of a disjointed commentary. Hope that's okay. Hope you guys can tolerate that. And that's all I've got to say for this run. I will see you guys next time. And as always, keep on Earth rocking.